Today I'm very excited because I just received this absolutely beautiful game from Bad Comet Games in Korea called Wondrous Creatures. And rather than look at the outside of the box, let's open it up and see what I'm talking about. So in this game, you are lost at sea and you come across a bird, a strange looking bird, which you follow to an island. And when you arrive at this island, you find all of these creatures that are unlike anything you've ever seen before. So let's take a look at our board here. Now, as I'm opening this up, I will also add that this is a prototype of the game. There are several elements of the game that are still going to be added to it, especially with cards and player abilities. And you will have noticed, by the way, that there is no rule book in this prototype copy. So the rule book is a PDF, which I had to look at online. So here's the island that we come across. And for those of you who are familiar with the game Everdell, the game is very similar in its structure in that every turn you're either going to be placing a worker on the island to collect resources, or you're going to be paying for and building a card from your hand, and that card's going to give you some points or other abilities. You're going to keep doing this until you run out of workers and you can't build any more cards, at which point you're going to enter a refresh phase, which is going to advance the time track up above, and you're going to pick up your pieces and begin anew. So we have 4 player boards, and each of these player boards is associated with the creatures. So I'm going to pull out some of these creatures, which I think are just wonderful. They look like that. So you should have 3 for each player color, and each of these is associated with a player board. So the sea monster here, I suppose that's blue. We've got the red, the yellow, and the gray. Okay. I'm not going to have you watch me sort out all 4 of these player boards and all of their pieces. So we will set aside 3 of them, and we'll just look at the red player board. These boards, by the way, with the inset, I love it when there are 2-layer boards that provide that ridge. So we've got, I think that's the score counter, and these are achievement markers. That's the time tracker that's going to be advancing every time you refresh. And we've got resource markers. So rather than have a tactile resource, you're just using these tracks. Okay, so those are the player pieces for red. And then what's going to happen is you've got this big space right here. Well, what's that for? In addition to the color for your player, you're also going to have a captain. At the beginning of the game, you're going to have these different captains coming out, and you're going to draft them. And then whoever you pick, that goes right there. And then you're going to have a piece associated with it. So I think this one looks like that guy. So the one captain piece is going to fit onto one of your player pieces. And then kind of like how in some games you have different meeples and then one meeple is larger, that's kind of the impact here. This piece is going to be a little bit more powerful because it's going to have with it the abilities specific to this piece. So, there can be mixing and matching. You can have a different character and have a different ability that comes with that character. So now I'm the protector of nature, right? So some nice mixing and matching. Oh, I don't know if that's the right one. He's got a guitar. There we go. So we've got the guitar, that's the guy. Unruly Adventurer Cabot. So you've got your player pieces, which you'll be placing on the board. And one thing you should be noticing is that the player pieces are larger than you might be used to for a board game. It's because they're designed to fit across 2 hexes on the board. So I could place this piece here. And when I do that, I'm going to be collecting resources from the 3 spaces adjacent to where I am. You'll also notice that aside from resources that match what's on your player board, so we've got a green resource, blue, yellow, and purple, and you've got corresponding spaces, so green, blue, yellow, purple. You also have some other terrain types. So you've got this like mountain terrain, or this water terrain, or these island terrains. And the type that you can place is going to be dependent on your player. So we look at this one as an example. Your crew can be placed on the mountains, and that is unique to me. Everybody can be placed on the plains here, but I could legally be placed like that. And that's because I have my captain piece there. This one could not. Wait, your crew. Oh, I'm sorry. Your whole crew. So all of my pieces. Crew refers to every piece you have, and then you've got your captain piece. So my captain is, each time your crew captain is placed, activate 1 recharge card in your reserve. Okay, we haven't talked about those phases yet, but that's specific to this piece. So anyway, going back to that, on your turn, you're going to be placing a legal move, and you're going to collect the resources that you're adjacent to. So purple, green, and blue. So I'd go up here, and here, and here. And then that would be my turn. And what are you using these resources for? Well, that brings our attention to the cards, which you can see the spaces up here, but I haven't dealt any cards yet because we're just doing an overview of components here. This is another element of the game that I'm really excited about. There are dozens and dozens of unique creature cards in this game. Oh my goodness. Having read the rules, there's even more than I thought. This is, look at all of this artwork. Wow. Let's see, was there a repeat there? Oh yeah. So we've got this one and this one. So there are some duplicates in here. Plenty of unique cards, but also duplicates as well, which is probably good for a balanced game. Anyway, I'm not going to shuffle. Well, I should probably shuffle a little bit just to give a sense of variety. So these cards are going to come out, and let's put a couple birds up there too. Dragon type. All right. And we'll put the pile over here. We've got a discard pile. Got a place for the supply. There are eggs in this game and nets and energy tokens, which I'm not going to need to pop all of those out, but we've got eggs, one for each different type of animal that there is. Nets, this is a kind of token that can be used for free during the game to make your action stronger. Energy tokens, these are used to activate some types of cards. So anyway, what you're doing is you're gathering these resources, and in addition to placing that worker on the board, you can take a card from that environment into your hand. So because I've placed next to the water here, this is a creature that lives next to the water. So I could take this and put this into my hand, and of course it would be refreshed. Right? On a future turn, I can play this card if I have those resources. So if I have 1 coral and 2 mushrooms, I would take that off of here, and I could put this, in order to see everything, I'm putting the board on top of the main player board. Maybe I should just slide it all aside. Okay, so I could put that on the side for my reserve. That's going to give me 3 victory points at the end of the game, and I would immediately take 2 energy tokens and put them on the card. And this type of card is saying anytime I spend one of those energy tokens, I get to perform that effect. Right? So I'm going to have more and more abilities as I get more and more of these cards. Now, of course, having more cards is going to let me do more things, but why? Why do I want to do more things? Well, let's take a look at the objective cards next. So you're going to have some objectives dealt into the game. There we go. All right. So 3 types of objectives. One, you've got animals of a certain type. So dragon cards, these are 2-sided based on the number of players. So that would be 3 and 4 player games. This would be a 2-player game. So if I get 6 dragons, I could get 8 points. If I get 3 dragons, I could get 4 points. When I accomplish the goal, I take one of my achievement markers, put it on there, and I get the benefit on the side, as well as the end-game points. All right? So we're racing to do these different achievements. So we've got single type of creatures, we've got multiple type of creatures, and I didn't shuffle this, so it's completely imbalanced. But and I believe the setup for the game doesn't allow you to have the same type, so this would probably require a redeal anyway. And then you've got these ones which, instead of getting a certain number of things, you're racing to do it first. So this is 6 creatures from the same environment. The first player to get 6 creatures from the same environment gets 12 points. The next player gets 6 points, right? 6 eggs. I haven't shown you I've shown you eggs, but I haven't shown you how to get them yet. 12 or 6 points, and then first player to get 14 cards in their tableau built. So you're doing this, and you're also picking up a trophy when you place it there. So we've got a few trophies. And trophies actually supply the game end condition, because based on the number of players you have, now, as happens to be the case that I've put, this is the 4-player side, so there would be a trophy on each one of these marks. Every time you achieve something, you're taking a trophy off of the board, and once the board runs out of trophies, the game is over. That's not the only game end condition, however. There is another game end condition at the top of the board. So here at the top, whenever you run out of workers or cards that you can play, you're going to be advancing on the time track. Once any player gets to here, all of the trophies get removed, which means this is also an in-game trigger. So the game can't be drawn out forever. If somebody isn't accomplishing things, the game's just going to time out and end that way, which I think is something I'm really excited to test out and see how well that goes. So I suppose to finish things up and to look at every different piece, we'll talk about these eggs. Eggs are going to get set up at the beginning of the game. They're going to be distributed on this board. And so at the beginning, you'll select 2 different types, 2 icon types. So maybe triangles and squares will come out. So that means you would put an egg on every triangle and square. And then, these are drawn from a cloth bag. So they would be random. For the sake of an example, I'll just place a few on there. Let's see, triangle and square. Okay, so on your turn, you could place it, and if you put on an egg, you can immediately take that and pick it up, add it to your player board, which has spaces in here, as well as awards as you go from top to bottom, left to right. So you get to hold on to that. And then another way to get it, let's suppose I don't want to go right here because I really want 2 purples. I could place myself like this, and then I could use my net to get any eggs that are adjacent to me. So I would have to discard that from my supply. You start the game with a few nets, and then you can accumulate more nets as you get in-game points. So add those, and then what they do is, aside from helping you satisfy objectives, during the game they can be spent to satisfy other objectives on the board. So if I was trying to do this objective, which needs 7 lizards, if I had 6 lizards, I could flip over that egg, and that would count as my lizard. I could only use it 1-time use there. So that's the idea of the game. I think this is a really clever and attractive way of combining 2 elements to create a unique combination of player powers. You've got your board and you've got your captain. So I think it's really cool. Yeah, we'll give it some plays and we'll see how it goes. Wondrous Creatures.